This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. Tom's right on time. You know, we can start a meeting because we'll know Tom will be right there, right at the time. So this meeting will come to order. The remote meeting allowed by the governor's orders. And first things first, let's have a motion to approve the minutes of March 23rd, 2022.
So moved.
Tom? You're muted, Tom.
I sure am. Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes of the 23rd. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Counselor Denham?
Aye.
Counselor Peak?
Aye.
Counselor Riss says aye. The mayor is not in the country, and we don't have any public, so let's get right to business. We have a $15,250 police department funding request. Take it away, Chief Alberti.
Good evening, councilors. So this request, it's a transfer from our lockup facility. So in that amount of the $15,250, that's the amount of money that we would normally have paid in years past to house regional lockup so we would pay that to the Hampshire County Sheriffs, and it's based on populace. But Hampshire County was the last sheriff's department in the Commonwealth that was charging police departments and cities for their regional lockup. So Sheriff Canlane decided that he was not going to charge us that money, although we had budgeted it. So having that money in that line item to move it into the police expenses, as I'm doing, Hadel was kind enough to let us know that we had to go through city council. So it wasn't just a interdepartmental transfer from like expenses to personal services. It's actually, even though it's a lockup in my police budget, it's technically Hadel right a separate like department budget, if that makes any sense. So ultimately that money's in my budget already. I'm just moving it to two things: public safety supplies, and then Abigail Lukasik is set to go to the academy in June. So normally I would have to come back to the council for those monies and an appropriation for the academy gear and the academy tuition. And as the councilors will remember, I come back almost every year for public safety supplies because we're always short in that line item for our qualification ammunition, which we have state mandated. We got to qualify twice a year. So this actually worked out that I don't have to do an appropriation from free cash or anywhere wherever the city finance decided the money would come from. The money's already sitting in my budget, so I won't have to appropriate outside of that to the city coffers.
Well, first thing, we trust Hadel. If she says you have to do this, you have to do it.
She's the best.
Secondly, is Abigail brand new, or has she been on the job and then she goes to the academy?
So she was hired as a special. She's been working. Yeah, yeah, exactly. She was actually probably one of our very last hires of specialists, because our last hires we had to get in under the wire for July 1st of last year in order to still retain them and then move them into a full-time status via the Bridge Academy and the post commission. So she's assigned to Midnights right now. She's by all counts an amazing police officer, and we're very lucky to have her. We're lucky to retain her. And we're lucky to be in a position where we can put her in the academy, and she hasn't left us.
Just a statement. I'm sad that we're going to lose the ability to have specials, because
you and me both.
That's how we graduate officers up to full time.
Well,
Connie, did I see your hand up, Connie?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what does specials mean?
So special is
why we lose them too.
They're extinct now due to the post commission, but they're part-time police officers. They go to a reserve intermittent academy, and so they have the full functioning and in service and training of the regular police officers, the full-timers, but without the full-time police academy, and that's where Abigail's headed to. So they can work part-time shifts. Then the thing really is with this post commission is because they're doing away with part-timers, and all of these specials are going to do what they call a bridge academy, which will basically certify them to be full-time police officers. Once they do this bridge academy, they'll be certified full-time, so they can go anywhere. They can get full-time jobs anywhere. So where it was our hiring pool for my whole career, and I was a special here, so it's always been our hiring pool. We get to know the specials, they get to know us, and we determine, if they're a good fit with us and vice versa. And it's been very, very, it's been a great hiring practice for us for decades. But now we can't have the specials working $20 an hour. So that means those shifts are going to have to get filled with overtime, or I got to do one of two things. They got to increase the overtime line item, because I won't have these specials working at $20 an hour, or I've got to hire additional full-timers to augment those shifts. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I just wanted, just for the notes, what is the actual name of the thing that the officers need to qualify for, and that's why we need the ammunition?
Oh, it's the MPTC. So it's the state mandated qualification course, and we have to do 2 a year.
Okay, and that's like firearms proficiency.
Exactly. Yep.
Qualification.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, I have other counselors here. Counselor Gomez, Counselor Kozinski, Counselor Zaret. Anybody have any questions? Seeing none. So I have no more discussion on this. I'll take a motion to approve $515,000.
Hadel's got her hand up.
Hadel's got her hand up.
Oh, Hadel, go for it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just to clarify why I recommended to have this through to go to the city council, we do budget here by department, and our policy states that within the department, mayor can sign off, but anything inter-department, because there is a police department and this lockup department is separately budgeted. That's why it needs to go to the city council. So I just wanted to make sure that why I said what I said.
Okay, I trust you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to argue.
Anybody else?
Just for clarification.
Thank you, Hadel.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll take a motion for $15,250 to be transferred from the lockup account for the police department to various accounts for supplies and tuition.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the in-department transfer, $15,250. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Counselor Denham?
Aye.
Counselor Peak?
Aye.
Counselor Riss says aye. This is up for public hearing in person, the council chambers next week. Chief. Okay.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.
The only other item I wanted to discuss this evening, we talked about discussing the salary of elected officials. Last time we discussed this, we talked about moving the school committee up quite a bit to be equal to the council. The school committee currently gets $2,000 each. The school committee chairperson gets $2,500. But the total increase, if the council gets $4,000 apiece. If we were going to simply match that, that's an increase of $10,000 in the budget. This counselor is now in favor of that. It sounded like there was a lot of consensus that we should do that the school committee does a tremendous amount of work, and why are they getting paid a lot less than us? So that's where we were at. I know that Counselor Zaret and Counselor Kozinski are here. Either one of you want to speak to the council salary or this item right now? Go ahead, Owen.
Thank you, Councilor Riss. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're not on video. I don't know if you want to be.
Well, I have to consult notes, and I'm sitting in a car, so probably not unless you'd like me to be counselor.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Happy birthday, by the way. I'm here to recommend a drastic increase in the city council salary, and I'm just going to do my best to speak to that briefly. Thank you, Councilor Rist, for suggesting brevity, because as we know, it's not my best friend, but I'm trying to embrace it more and more. So I'm recommending a city council salary increase to $10,000 a year. And I'm just going to make a few points here, and I'll let you all discuss and see if anyone else wants to chime in. So first of all, we need to value the work that we do. We have 2 full meetings a month, numerous committees, obligations. We have to attend events. Research, I could speak just to the plastic ordinance that we passed last year. That represented probably 40 hours of research on my part. I had to put together a 20-page presentation on plastic straws. You know, there's value to that. And we don't have, like other cities, we don't have a solicitor that writes ordinance for us. So in this time takes away from other obligations, takes away from our actual primary jobs, and there's costs to this. You know, to make a 5 o'clock meeting for many of us that work 9 to 5, we have to take time off from work that might represent PTO or vacation time, not to mention 4 o'clock meetings. The work of the city council is incredibly important. If we don't work, the city doesn't work. Budgets, appropriations, approvals, ordinances, etc. This all requires council action. Without it, nothing happens in the city. This takes an acknowledgement. This needs to be acknowledged that the work we do, the gravity of the work we do and of those duties, it must be reflected appropriately in compensation. And some people have said they don't need the money. Well, fine, just donate it. But I think that's a distracting argument, and it really takes away from what we're talking here, which is the value of work done, right? The converse is some people need this money. There's people who, for a variety of inequities, to people either on the council now or future people on the council, this is the pivotal point to decide if they could even participate in city government, because they potentially work a second job or they have significant childcare expenses that need to be paid in order to participate in city government. And we open up the door for a more diverse representation, both financially as well as racially, when we increase the salaries to what I feel is a more equitable level. It's about being compensated appropriately and fairly for the duties carried out. Lastly, obviously, and this is kind of the enigma, is the clerk of the city council has been raised to $5,000 a year. And I think that's great. I respect the work they do. I know how hard it is to take notes at meetings, to take minutes, et cetera, to organize the agenda. But that immediately created a disproportionality in regard to pay scale. And it begs that the councilor salary has to be increased in order to reflect the relationship between the work that the councilors do and the work that the clerk does. The current compensation paradigm now makes no sense. So again, in consideration of all the above, I recommend an increase from $4,000 to $10,000 a year. And thank you for your time.
Councilor Kozinski. Did you want to speak, JP? You're muted. Councilor Gomez, do you want to speak to this right now? I don't know what's going on with JP.
Hi, can you hear me well?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, sometimes Google Meet and my computer don't match together sometimes, so that's why I'm asking those. Like I said last time, I believe that the salary, because that's the name of what we have, we call stipend, but in reality the name is salary. It's a little low. I do believe the increasing the stipend, and I will not throw a number. I think that will more up to the finance committee to decide what number will be. But that will attract more people of color, like myself and women, that I think there is necessary to have them at the council. We know how hard it is to raise kids, right? And to pay for daycare or babysitter in the afternoon. I think if we can help in a way to attract more people of colors and women. Again, the number, we can talk 10,000, 7,000. I think that's the finance committee who can decide what will be the appropriate number for that. But I do believe they should be a little better. And it's not for us. I just want to remind everybody, it's not for us, right? We have to run again, and if we get elected, it's a possibility that we're gonna get that salary, but not necessarily. So, so it's for the people of the future, the people who's coming behind us, that they want to participate and they want to be part of this the city council body. Thank you.
Councilor Krasinski. JP, can you hear me? You're muted, JP. I still can't hear you, JP. I don't know what's going on with you.
That's the microphone. He's not muted. Wait, but it's
Your
the
mic
microphone.
must not be working. No, it's not working.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Do you want to put your thoughts in the chat?
All
Oh,
in.
there's not a chat.
JP, you want
There's a chat.
I don't know what to say. Check on your screen, you should have the audio settings. Maybe there's something there. I can't hear you, so can you hear me? You can hear me, but you can't. We can't hear you. Councilor Zarek, did you have your hand up again?
Yes, Chairman. Just as a technical recommendation, the Councilor Kwasinski could log off, and I believe there's a call-in number if he'd like to speak. Just offering some technical assistance there.
So why don't you look at the agenda and dial in, JP? I think that's what Owen's doing. Let me do some numbers here. If we go with the fact that the school committee ought to be equal, the question becomes, if we raise this council salary to $7,000 or $10,000, do we not do that for the school committee? That's a major increase in one term.
I do feel this is just sorry, I should have raised my hand.
No, go ahead, Tom.
I do feel like parity. So first of all, this has never been a huge priority for me, but I can't really dispute necessarily anything that our colleagues have said here. Like just in terms of like, if I don't have kids. If I were a single dad, I would probably have to hire babysitters a lot for this job, and that would get pricey, I mean, I do burn a pretty substantial amount of paid time off every year to make especially 5 p.m. meetings. If I have to work in the office, I need to burn time to leave early. That's not an issue for me because I'm a state employee and I have ridiculous amounts of paid time off. But for other people, it would be. So I just want to say, like, I don't want to dispute anything that anyone's saying. For me, like, I see all of that, and I'm very open to discussing it. But I also do think that after the last few years that we have, if we're talking raises for the council or pay parity between the school committee and the council as like two things we might want to accomplish here, for me, the pay parity with the school committee is the most important, just because they've been through some crazy stuff over the last couple of years, and just some really, really intense conversations about some, and it's not going to stop if you just look at the national climate. So I do think it's, it's clear to me they have the same demands. So whatever we think we deserve, I think they deserve the same amount. That's one thing that I believe. And if that means that we have to come in a little bit lower than we want just for it to fit in the budget, I can live with that. I wouldn't want to take a raise at their expense, is I guess what I'm saying. But it's hard for me to say that an increase wouldn't make this something. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling here. There's just a lot of interesting points that people brought up. But, the idea of a stipend, right, which is what we call it, is that it's supposed to be, it's not exactly, or I don't know, somebody told me this once, it might be not true, but this isn't exactly supposed to be, it's money that we are receiving to fact that we incur costs in this job, when we, whether those are, actual material costs or sort of opportunity costs for time that we spend doing this instead of other things, and it's certainly true that like I could, if I was worried about money, I could make more money working a minimum wage job for the same amount of hours that I put into the city council. Now, that's not an issue for me because I'm very lucky to have a, job at UMass that pays sort of okay. But I do see that like there might be people who a bit of extra money in this account or in that stipend would potentially open this up as a possibility for them in a way that it isn't now. I mean, I know that like every year when it's the start of a council election year, it's January, it's February, it's March, and you start calling around to your friends or, people that have been really great and be like, hey, have you thought about running for council? We might have some vacancies. You hear a lot of like, oh no, I could never do that. Right. I have kids. I could never fit that into my schedule or I have other demands in my life. I could never fit that into my schedule. So this has never been a real priority of mine, but I do totally see what other people are saying, I guess. But I do think it's also the school committee is under that same pressure,
Councilor Denham?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it should be comparable to an hourly wage, right? I don't agree with that, but I do think for purposes of equity and the opportunity that would open up to more members of the community being interested in participating in local government. I do support that, and I think there is a financial hindrance to that participation. So the more that we can do to increase that participation, I support that, and I also believe that it should be a parity between the council and the school committee. I think, like everyone has said, I don't need to repeat it, right? I just think it needs to be equitable.
I would agree with that. I'm not sure I agree with the $10,000. I want to share the screen with the 2018 study.
Sure.
I'll call it up now. You guys seeing this?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at that, these communities are a lot more population and obviously a lot more budget. And this is counselor stipends. We're at 4,000. These other cities like Braintree, they're at 37,000 population, twice ours, more than twice. It's only 5,000. The only place where we get up high is when you're up to these big cities, these cities that have much more population. That doesn't negate the fact that I think Councilor Zaret's point is well taken. We do a lot of work. But when I look at other communities, that influences me a great deal. I just wanted to show this. You all have this document. If you don't, I'll send it along to you. But it does, we're the smallest community here in this particular study, and we're at 4,000. Randolph doesn't even pay their counselors, apparently. So I've always felt that getting paid is not why I joined the council, but I think Councilor Gomez's point is the strongest point for bringing up more people, but for bringing the salary up. I like the idea of trying to attract more people to it. I don't think I could ever vote for a $10,000 increase. I think that's going to get us a lot of flack. I think 7,000 is attractive to me, but I could be influenced. I want to point out that we have until December 31st to make this decision. And this is a pretty big decision. When we've done this in the past over my years, it's been a $1,000 increase here and there, or a $500 increase. We increased last time. The only thing we did was increase the president and the chairman of the school boards. We didn't do anything. Well, we did increase I think we increased the school committee a little bit. But my position is yes, parity between the two boards. Maybe it's 7. If it's 7,000, just for numbers' sake, that's a $36,000 increase in the budget for council and a $48,000 increase in the budget for school committee, which it doesn't happen until FY25. So it's a few years down the road. Councilor Gwazinski, do you think you're able to speak now?
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Have you heard all of this discussion?
You missed all the discussion.
Okay, well, state your piece. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
So what do you think? We've been talking about parity between the school committee and the council, and what should that increase be? If we increase, in other words, if we increase the council, say, to $7,000, we're going to make the school committee $7,000. I think there's consensus with this finance committee for that. I'd like to know what you think.
Well, I haven't resolved the issue of parity between the school committee and the city council. I do know how much time the school committee members put in, so I do have an inside track on the historical record of that subject. However, as other councilors have pointed out, this is not about current members of the council. This is about the future of the city, the future of the council, and what the responsibilities and roles are, and who is attracted to the positions, where on the economic spectrum they currently sit, and are we being fair to those who may not be in a position to go ahead and volunteer their time, as many people would think. Given a simple report, I think that Councilor Zaret had mentioned, can take 40 hours. Simple. It's not simple. There's at least 40 hours worth of research and preparation, and it becomes a very serious job and responsibility. So I'm in favor of looking at this very closely and would be very much interested in a salary study with the other communities. I don't know if that information is out there or has been shared.
I just showed that. It's a 2018 study.
2018? That's
not too long ago, but I thought I sent it to you. I'll send you it if you don't have it when we get done with the meeting.
Interested in looking at that. And the other thing I would caution, and I have mentioned, is that sometimes those positions for other communities include health insurance. So if you include the benefit of a family health insurance plan, that in our city, I think, is costing about it's approaching $2,000 per month for the premium. And if the city is paying 75%, that benefit amounts to a serious piece of change that should be calculated into the formula of however we work this out. So my recommendation is to study the matter and to move forward as soon as possible, but not to go prematurely without looking at the new data.
So you're suggesting we study adding healthcare? I can't agree. I'm not going to do that study. I can't agree.
We can discount the value. If the salary were zero and the healthcare benefit were approximately let's for the sake of even numbers say $1,500 per month, that would be a salary of $1,500 per month if there was no salary. So times 12, you're talking almost, I think, over $15,000, close to $18,000 right there in a benefit that may not be counted in the figures. So if let's say you look for Northampton, if you include, let's say the salary is $10,000 in Northampton and 18 for the benefit, that's a salary of really $28,000 a year to someone. It could make a serious difference whether someone is interested in running for the council and hiring a babysitter or doing other family needs. that could be taken care of from the salary. So I think it's worth looking at closely. I'm not advocating for health insurance, but don't discount it.
Well, Counselor Kwasinski, this counselor is not going to ask Barbara to do that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. That's a lot of work. If you're interested in studying healthcare, being a part of other council benefits, okay. I don't think I could ever do that just because of the numbers you just brought up. I couldn't go there. I'm having a hard time making a huge increase right now in one term. I'd like to stagger these increases myself. I would feel more comfortable with it. But the only thing I agree with is parity. And I don't know if you do, but I agree with that. And there seems to be consensus on that. What that figure is, I don't know. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think my understanding of what Councilor Kwasinski was saying is simply that, is not to, correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Kwasinski, it's not that we should consider adopting healthcare. It's that when we look at comparable cities to see what they are up to, we should consider the fact that some of those cities do offer benefits other than just a stipend that you have to take into account if you want to actually see like what the value of their compensation to counselors is. It's not that, I don't think that necessarily is something that anyone's proposing we should do, just that there could be a city that looks like its payment to counselors is a lot lower if we just look at the stipend, because we're not considering other non-stipend benefits that the counselors there receive.
Right. So Randolph,
go ahead, Karen.
Randolph, yeah. So Randolph doesn't pay their counselors, but they may offer them health care, but we don't know that.
Yeah,
and so that's
we could
actually a
find that
benefit.
out. I understand now.
Yeah.
But every other council salary on that list I showed you was already higher than ours. So if they're also getting healthcare benefits, they're getting a massive amount. But that speaks to the fact if they are getting a massive amount, healthcare and let's say a $6,000, $7,000, then our raise to a higher amount doesn't look as bad, in the sense of, you know, people saying, hey, they're giving themselves a huge raise. I don't know. It's hard for me. A jump from 4,000 to 10,000 is hard. I don't know how I could vote for that, but I could see 7 because it's now, and then the next term maybe you increase it again. I mean, we need to look at that, I guess. I say 7 because I think that Councilor Gomez's point is well taken. I think 7 might be very attractive to people who don't have the income and are afraid to join the council because they need to work extra, you know? Tom, did you have your hand up again, or is that a whole?
Yeah. I just wanted to also point out that, one challenge I think that we have as a smaller city, kind of across the board, is that when it comes to hiring, like, pay doesn't always scale to population. So, if you, and I just want us to consider this as we go forward, like, we are one of the smallest cities in the Commonwealth. If not, I think we were for a while the smallest. I think Palmer might be now, but or North Adams, but we're in that, like, we're among the smallest cities. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we do less work. In fact, in some cases, I think it could be arguable that we do. I mean, we don't have any staff, right? Like, some city councils have their own legal counsel, their own solicitors. Some of them have legislative aides that they can go to help work on things or to meet with some constituents if there's a time that doesn't work. There's, as cities scale, like, councils get other resources that we don't necessarily have. at the same time, I think it's worth noting that like any of this money that we are asking for, it comes from the taxpayers. So in terms of, if we had a salary that was comparable to the salary of a bigger city, our taxpayers on a per capita basis would be paying more for their city council than, that other city. So I think that that's true, but I just don't want to get lost in the idea that if a city's twice as big as us, then it makes sense that their salary is twice as big, because that's not really necessarily how these things always scale. It's not that necessarily they have twice as much work to do or their problems are twice as complex. And in fact, in some cases, it might be sort of a very nonlinear relationship. So just kind of something to think about.
Well, I think I hear your point. I also think now people are much more in tune with government. And as a result, counselors can't be invisible. They can't hide. Anything that they do, any work we do is a lot more visible now. And I think COVID has done that, because having people being able to attend our meetings remotely means they're more aware of what's going on. And it makes it more difficult to make tough decisions. So it's about responsibility. So I don't know where we're going to go with this. I think we all want to think about it some more. I will ask Barbara to put out a feeler to all. She has a clerk, group. And I'll say, can you get an update on salaries and are there healthcare benefits? And it may not be available for a while, but once that comes in, we'll continue this discussion. I saw Connie's hand first.
Yeah, this is just a very tiny incentive, but for state employees that make over $5,000, that counts towards 1 year of
service, retirement.
Yes, service was I was thinking of investment or vestiture, but yes, 1 year of service. So for someone that might actually be an incentive, or it might add 2 years of service, but I'm just pointing that out.
Tom?
One thought I just had, would it make sense to reach out to MMA about this?
MMA?
Yeah.
Would you mind doing that, Tom?
No, I can do that.
You're kind of connected there. They may have.
Yeah.
They may have a database that has it immediately. But I'll ask Barbara to do what she did before. Cities and towns, and I don't care how big the city is, how much is the council making, and how much is are they getting any benefits? We do get retirement benefits. In fact, I found out that because I've been on the council, I don't put a lot into retirement, but I'm going to get a little check when I retire. So we get that benefit. We don't get a health care. That's a biggie. But I think we might as well look at that as part of the comparison of salaries. But it's about the work you do, and it's about responsibility. So how much we increase, I don't know. I would be concerned if we increased it too much. The taxpayers might get a little flipped out if we go from 4,000 to 10,000 in one whole term. Maybe we do 7 and then 10 in 2 years. I don't know, but that's for the next council to decide. But that's just me. I don't know. It's a tough one. I'd like to attract more minorities and people with incomes that normally wouldn't be able to do this. So, all right.
Yeah, I'd like some more time. I'd like to see.
On this?
Yeah, I was just saying I'd like to see the data and see what folks are saying, and I also agree. I think we're in a very financially difficult time, just nationally and globally, and I think that we need to be sensitive to that.
Okay. So let's get some more information. Again, we don't have to make this decision. The one thing I'm going to bring up, though, is that the stipends for some of our boards and committees, I don't agree I agree that everybody's volunteering and everybody, but we don't, like the Board of Public Works. They do a lot of work. They have a huge responsibility and they get $300 a year. So if we're going to talk about responsibility and giving ourselves a big raise ourselves, the next council, I want to go back to those regulatory boards, the planning board, the Board of Public Works, the Board of Assessors. They make major decisions affecting our residents and our taxpayers. And I think that says to me, we ought to respect that with a salary. So I'm going to propose those. I don't know if it'll pass, but I am going to look at those again. Because all of the points we brought up today about the city council reflecting our responsibilities and duties, to me, mean that we ought to look at why we even, you know, $300 for the Board of Public Works member is a little, it's insulting to me. I've always felt that way. Okay, unless there's more discussion, I'm going to call this meeting to adjourn. Anything else from anybody? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn, councilors?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Connie?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And Dan Riss says aye. Okay, thank you all.